In the year 1873, within the rugged expanse of the Colorado Territory, Sarah Whitmore found herself subjected to a fate as grim as it was unjust as her own parents bartered her away like mere livestock to the highest bidder, firmly believing that a woman unable to bear children held no value in the harsh realities of the frontier. Yet, when a widowed father of 5 caught a glimpse of a spark within her that she herself had long overlooked, the unforgiving mountain winds began to whisper of an unexpected promise. Hope. Can a woman, once regarded as worthless by society, emerge as the very essence of a family in dire need of her presence? Sarah's bare feet struck the wagon floor with urgency as her father's fist hammered against the wooden side. Leave now, my dear. It is time to encounter your new master. In the year 1873, the Whitmore family farm in Colorado Territory faced an unrelenting tide of misfortune. In that moment, Sarah realized she was the source of the greatest turmoil. Her hands trembled as she grasped the tiny cloth bag that contained all her worldly possessions. Through the canvas shroud, she discerned the murmurs of men discussing her as if she were a damaged steed, one they might acquire at a bargain. One man remarked, "She appears to be in good health." The thud of his boots echoed against the earth, each step resonating with a weighty finality. "But you say she can't have babies?" Sarah's father unleashed a glob of saliva into the parched earth. 3 years of marriage to Thomas Brennan, yet no child to speak of. The doctor reveals that her internal systems are not functioning properly. Yet, her skills in the kitchen, her ability to maintain a tidy home, and her reading prowess surpass those of many men around here. The crisp autumn wind danced through the openings in the wagon cover, sending a shiver down Sarah's spine. She leaned closer, her eye fitting snugly against the tiny aperture in the fabric, and beheld a cluster of men assembled like scavengers, waiting with a predatory air. Certain faces bore a harsh demeanor. Gazes from others pierced through her, their hungry eyes stirring a tumult in her stomach. But there was one man standing apart from the group, and something about him seemed different. The man stood tall, his dark hair framing a face marked by serious, penetrating eyes. His attire was immaculate, yet the ruggedness of his hands spoke volumes of the labor he had endured. While the other men laughed and made jokes about buying damaged goods, he stood quiet, watching everything with a frown on his face. "What is her name?" the tall man inquired. Sarah's father appeared taken aback by the inquiry. Sarah Whitmore. What does it really matter? She will respond to any name you choose to use. It holds significance for me," the man declared with conviction. Sarah experienced a flutter in her chest. It had been months since anyone had inquired about her name. Her husband had referred to her as woman or wife. Yet Sarah remained untouched by the shadows of despair, particularly after the doctor delivered the heart-wrenching news that she would never bear children. Her parents began to refer to her as the burden, believing she was oblivious to their words. "Is she able to express her own thoughts?" the tall man inquired. At that moment, Sarah's father wore an expression of irritation. "Certainly she possesses the ability to articulate her thoughts. Excessive, if you seek my opinion. Perpetually inquiring. Perpetually immersed in the pages of those books. Perhaps that explains her inability to fulfill the expected roles of women." The towering figure approached the wagon with deliberate intent. "Miss Sarah, might you step outside for a moment, please?" "Please," he uttered, his voice laced with a sense of urgency. It had been so long since Sarah had heard the simple, polite word "please" directed her way, that she struggled to recall the last instance it had graced her ears. With a deep breath, she ventured through the canvas opening. The harsh sunlight pierced her eyes, a stark contrast to the shadows of the dark wagon. She blinked, and the gaze of every man in the room fell upon her. Some appeared disheartened, as if she fell short of their standards of beauty. Others nodded as if she could indeed be worth the trouble. Yet the tall man merely wore a look of sorrow. "Miss Sarah," he spoke softly, "allow me to introduce myself. I am Samuel McCready. My life is filled with the joyful chaos of 5 children, all while tending to a farm located a mere 10 miles from this very spot. I need help taking care of my family. Would you consider joining our team? Labor on their behalf, not to be possessed by them, not to be considered their possession." Sarah gazed at her father, his face flushed with fury. Her gaze drifted toward the other men, who were murmuring amongst themselves about the peculiar manner in which Samuel was regarding her. Then she turned her gaze back to Samuel Macready and noticed a glimmer in his eyes that had long been absent. Compassion. "Indeed, sir," she murmured. "I would be open to that." Samuel inclined his head and delved into his pocket. He pulled out more money than Sarah had ever seen and handed it to her father. Yet, rather than retreating, he pivoted to face Sarah once more. "Have you gathered all that you require from the wagon?" Sarah raised her petite bag aloft. "This encompasses all that there is." Samuel's frown deepened. "Is that everything you own?" Without hesitation, Sarah's father interjected. "She requires little. I have never been one for extravagant possessions." Yet Samuel's gaze was fixed on Sarah, not her father. "Is there anything more you wish to acquire? Is there anything that is yours?" Sarah reminisced about her mother's cherished rocking chair, nestled in their cabin. She reflected on the modest garden she had nurtured behind the house, now withering away due to neglect. She thought about her favorite hiding spot by the creek, where she used to read books. "No, sir," she replied. "Nothing else is rightfully mine." Samuel gazed intently at her face, absorbing every detail for what felt like an eternity. In that moment, he took an action that left everyone, Sarah included, utterly astonished. He removed his own warm coat and draped it gently around her shoulders. "Very well," he remarked. "Let us return home." As they strolled toward his horse and wagon, Sarah caught the sound of her father calling after them. "She is now your responsibility, Macready. Don't seek my sympathy when she lets you down." Sarah forged ahead, her gaze fixed firmly on the path before her. After 3 long years, she found herself moving toward something rather than being pulled away from it. The coat carried the scent of pine trees and wood smoke, mingling with an elusive aroma that eluded her grasp, yet enveloped her in a comforting embrace. "Mr. Macready?" she remarked as he assisted her into his wagon. "Indeed, Miss Sarah, I appreciate your inquiry about my name." Samuel's smile broke through the haze, a genuine expression that felt like a long-lost treasure, one she hadn't encountered in what seemed like an eternity. "Each person is worthy of being addressed by their name," he remarked. As the wagon departed from the trading post, Sarah gazed at the vast expanse of sky above the Colorado Territory, contemplating whether, perhaps, her fortunes were at last shifting. That morning, Samuel Macready arrived at Morrison's trading post in search of winter supplies, not a partner for life. Yet, as he stood there, absorbing the sound of Harold Whitmore peddling his daughter like a damaged instrument, a fierce heat of anger ignited within his chest. The 41-year-old widower understood the profound ache of losing it all. 2 years prior, his beloved wife Anna had passed away in her valiant effort to bring their 6th child into existence. With the loss of the baby, Samuel found himself alone, burdened with the weight of 5 children who relied on him to embody strength, even as he grappled with his own feelings of vulnerability. "She's damaged goods," Whitmore declared to the gathering of men, "but there's still some utility left in her." Samuel's gaze lingered on the wagon concealing Sarah, a wave of nausea washing over him. These men spoke of a human being as if she were mere livestock. He had witnessed this scenario previously, amidst the chaos of war, when the desperate resorted to selling their possessions merely to endure another day. Yet, that did not render it just. "What is your asking price?" Summon Pete Morrison, the proprietor of the trading post. Pete had a reputation for his harsh treatment of his employees and an even colder demeanor towards his wife. $50 and she's yours," Whitmore said, his voice steady. "That seems reasonable for a woman who is capable of working yet struggles to find her breath." The words struck Samuel with the force of a blow. He pondered over Anna, who had tirelessly devoted herself to the children and the farm, pushing herself to the brink of exhaustion. She was worth more than all the riches in the Colorado Territory, not for her ability to bear children, but for her kindness, intelligence, and the way she transformed their house into a true home. "I'll pay 60, Samuel found himself declaring. All eyes were drawn to him. Pete Morrison let out a hearty laugh. "Macready, you've already got more children than you can manage. What is it that you seek from a woman who is fractured?" Samuel's hands clenched into fists, yet his voice remained steady and composed. "This matter is mine to handle, not yours." A different man advanced into view. "I am willing to offer 70. I require a cook for my ranch hands." Samuel was familiar with this man, Jake Thompson, and he was well aware of the tales surrounding Thompson's treatment of the women in his employ. No woman should have to endure such a life, particularly one who has already faced so much pain. $80, Samuel declared with conviction. Silence enveloped the crowd. $80 represented a sum greater than what the average man earned in a span of 3 months. Harold Whitmore's eyes widened, brimming with avarice. "Now you're speaking with clarity," Whitmore remarked. "The sum amounts to $80. Yet Samuel raised his hand. "Hold on a moment. I would like to speak with the lady first. Engage in conversation with her?" Whitmore let out a hearty laugh. "What is the purpose? She will comply with the instructions given to her." "Not in my house she won't," Samuel declared. "Within the confines of my home, individuals are granted the freedom to make their own choices." This stirred a greater murmur among the men. The notion of a woman possessing choices felt foreign to the majority of them. Yet Samuel held on to the memory of Anna, recalling how she had always voiced her thoughts candidly, how she had inspired him to become a better man by urging him to ponder deeply the nuances of right and wrong. As Sarah stepped down from the wagon, Samuel sensed a slight fracture in his heart. She appeared slender and ghostly, as if sustenance had eluded her grasp. Her dress, though worn and mended, retained a certain cleanliness. Her eyes flitted about anxiously, akin to a creature seeking a way out of its confines. Yet, as he addressed her with tenderness, as he sought her consent rather than issuing commands, a transformation flickered across her features. She straightened her posture. Her voice grew more powerful. When she agreed to accompany him, Samuel detected an unexpected nuance in her tone that caught him off guard. Anticipation. The journey back to his farm began in silence. Sarah positioned herself at the farthest edge of the wagon seat, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Samuel grasped the essence of it. He remained an enigma to her, and given her past experiences, she found no justification to place her trust in any man. "Tell me about your children," Sarah said suddenly. Samuel found himself taken aback that she had chosen to speak first. "Ah, yes, Jacob. At 17, he believes he has assumed the mantle of man of the house ever since his mother passed away. Well done, my good lad. Yet, he bears an excessive weight of concern for one so young." Sarah nodded as if she grasped the weight of carrying worry. "Next, we encounter Mary. At just 13, she has been shouldering the weight of responsibility for everyone ever since Anna's departure. Sharp-witted and resolutely driven, Ben and Beth, the twins, have reached the age of 10. They are akin to two facets of a singular entity. Where one ventures, the other trails closely behind. And little Emma," Samuel's voice softened. "She has reached the age of 6 now. She scarcely recalls her mother, yet the absence is palpable all the same." "They seem like wonderful children," Sarah remarked. "Indeed they are, yet they require." Samuel paused, uncertain of how to conclude. "They need a mother," Sarah murmured softly. Samuel gave a slow, deliberate shake of his head. "They require an individual who genuinely cares for them, someone who recognizes their existence as more than just tasks to complete or mouths to nourish." Anna often expressed that children must understand their significance, not merely for their accomplishments, but for their very essence. For an extended period, Sarah remained silent. At last she inquired, "What if I let them down? What if I fall short of expectations?" Samuel gazed at her, this woman cast aside by all those who ought to have shielded her. "Dear Miss Sarah, disappointment arises when we hold expectations of others that do not align with their true selves. I don't anticipate you to embody Anna. I don't anticipate perfection from you. I simply wish for you to show concern for my children, and perhaps allow them to develop an affection for you in return." Upon arriving at the farm, 5 eager faces were pressed against the kitchen window. Samuel observed the blend of curiosity and concern etched on his children's faces. They had endured an immense amount of loss already. Could they find it within themselves to embrace this gentle soul with sorrowful eyes? "Are you prepared?" Samuel inquired. With a deep breath, Sarah nodded affirmatively. As they approached the house, Samuel felt a flicker of hope that perhaps, just perhaps, they could find solace in one another. Ultimately, the finest families are not merely a product of birth. At times they found themselves selected. Emma McCready found herself ensnared 20 feet above the ground in the gnarled branches of the ancient oak tree that loomed behind the house, her cries escalating with each passing moment. Without a moment's hesitation, Sarah tossed her small bundle onto the porch and dashed toward the ruckus. Under the sprawling canopy of the great tree, 4 children gazed upward at their little sister. who clung to a sturdy branch with the trepidation of a frightened kitten. Mary explained, her hands wringing together, that she went up there in pursuit of Whiskers. Now she finds herself paralyzed by fear, unable to descend. "Papa's in the back pasture mending the fence," Jacob said, his adolescent voice trembling with concern. "He will not perceive our calls echoing from such a distance." Sarah gazed at the tree, nostalgia washing over her as she recalled the carefree days of her youth, scaling the apple trees that stood proudly behind her family's home. The bark was rugged and sturdy, offering numerous handholds. Before anyone had the chance to intervene, she shed her battered boots and began her ascent. "Miss Sarah, what occupies your time at this moment?" Mary inhaled sharply. Bringing her sister to a more grounded state, Sarah shouted back, already 10 feet in the air. The children gazed in wonder as this unfamiliar woman effortlessly climbed the oak tree, as if it were second nature to her. With the instinctive grace of a seasoned climber, Sarah found herself perched on the branch beside Emma, her muscles recalling the familiar cadence of ascent. The young girl's visage bore the marks of sorrow, streaked with both tears and the sticky remnants of tree sap. "I can't get down," she whispered. "The height is excessive." "I understand it feels daunting," Sarah said softly, "but I'm here to guide you through it. We shall descend together, one limb at a time." The events that unfolded next took everyone by surprise, even Sarah herself. Emma encircled her slender arms around Sarah's neck, clinging on with a fierce determination. After 3 long years, Sarah experienced the profound sensation of a child placing their unwavering trust in her hands. With careful deliberation, they descended, Sarah deftly directing Emma's feet to each secure foothold. As they touched the earth below, the 5 children gazed at Sarah, their eyes filled with newfound admiration. "What inspired your remarkable climbing skills?" Ben inquired, his eyes alight with curiosity. "My papa taught me when I was about your age," Sarah replied, gently brushing the bark from her skirt. He remarked that every girl ought to possess the ability to save herself. Jacob advanced, and Sarah observed the weight of his father's serious gaze in his own eyes. "I appreciate your assistance with Emma. Many women might have simply cried out for assistance." "I'm not like most ladies," Sarah replied, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her mind as she pondered whether that was a truth she ought to reveal. For the first time since Sarah's arrival, a smile graced Mary's lips. That seems to be a positive development. Few women would endure a week in this environment. As they strolled back to the house, Sarah uncovered more about the McCready children in a mere 10 minutes than she had anticipated learning in days. Since the tender age of 11, Mary had taken the reins of the household. Every day, Jacob toiled beside his father, yet his heart yearned for the classroom, where he envisioned himself as a teacher. Ben and Beth, the twins, embodied a striking contrast. He had a deep affection for animals while she found solace in the pages of books. And Emma. Indeed, Emma was the little one who filled hearts with both joy and trepidation. Within the confines of the house, Sarah beheld her first genuine glimpse of what was destined to become her new abode. The kitchen sprawled with an abundance of space, yet was a chaotic symphony of clutter, where dishes teetered in precarious towers and garments draped from every conceivable hook. The main room boasted inviting furniture, yet it yearned for the delicate grace only a woman's touch could provide. All was functional, yet beauty eluded the scene. "Papa does his utmost," Mary remarked, observing the look on Sarah's face. "Yet an endless array of tasks awaits." With determination, Sarah rolled up her sleeves. "Let us explore the possibilities of what we might achieve in his absence." What ensued was an experience unlike any the McCready children had ever known. Sarah did not merely clean, she meticulously organized. She transcended the act of cooking. She imparted melodies for them to chant as they toiled. Not only did she repair their garments, but she also imparted clever techniques to render the fixes almost undetectable. Yet the true enchantment unfolded as dusk settled, and Samuel made his way back from the pasture. He discovered his home altered, not merely tidy but imbued with an unexpected warmth. The aroma of freshly baked bread wafted through the room, candles danced softly on the table, and his children encircled Sarah, who was guiding Emma in her letter practice. "Father!" Emma shouted, dashing toward him. "Miss Sarah ascended the tree to rescue me, and afterward, we prepared supper together, sharing in the melody of a song about a mockingbird that she knows well." Samuel's eyes met Sarah's, and in that moment, she seemed to shrink back. a wave of shyness washing over her beneath his steady gaze. Her hair had unraveled from its pins amidst the tree-climbing escapade, and traces of flour dusted her apron from the bread-making endeavor. "It seems you've experienced quite a day," he remarked. "It's been wonderful," Sarah replied, her sincerity evident in every word. As the family gathered around the table for their inaugural meal together that night, an unspoken shift had already taken place. Emma was determined to take her place beside Sarah. Mary inquired about the possibility of acquiring the bread recipe. Even Jacob appeared to be more at ease, as though the presence of another adult in the house had alleviated some unseen burden from his shoulders. Yet it was the dialogue that astonished Sarah the most. In her former existence, dining was a quiet ritual where children uttered words solely when prompted. In this space, tales of the day's events flowed freely among all present. Samuel inquired of each child regarding their activities, attentively absorbing their responses as if their words held significance. "Miss Sarah," Beth inquired during a lull in the conversation, "will you be with us for a while?" The question lingered in the atmosphere, reminiscent of smoke curling from the fireplace. Sarah surveyed the table, her gaze drifting over 5 expectant faces, some radiating hope, others tinged with caution, all eager for her reply. "I hope so," she said at last. "If you'll have me." As the evening wore on and the children were tucked away in their beds, Sarah settled onto the front porch, her gaze fixed on the stars as they began to twinkle above the majestic Colorado mountains. Samuel approached her, 2 steaming cups of coffee in hand. "They've warmed to you swiftly," he noted. "They are good children," Sarah responded. "Your efforts in their upbringing are commendable." Samuel fell silent for a brief moment. "The days have been heavy since Ellen's passing. Mary has been burdened with an overwhelming amount of responsibility. Jacob had to mature far too quickly, and the younger ones," he faltered. "What every child requires," Sarah remarked. "A deep affection, unwavering focus, and the presence of someone who recognizes their own significance." In the embrace of a tranquil silence, Sarah discovered a sensation long absent from her life, a profound sense of peace. The mountains loomed as shadowy silhouettes beneath the vast expanse of the star-studded sky, while, in the distance, a lone coyote's call echoed, reaching out to its pack. For the first time since her father had placed her in that wagon, Sarah started to entertain the thought that perhaps, just perhaps, she had discovered where she truly belonged. Unbeknownst to her, her presence had already caught the attention of others in the valley, and not all were in favor of the McCready family's new arrangement. The moment that would alter the fabric of Sarah's new existence came with the arrival of Mrs. Henrietta Caldwell, who approached the McCready house on a gray November morning. As the first snow delicately blanketed the mountain peaks, Mrs. Caldwell was the sort of woman who took it upon herself to oversee the moral compass of those around her, and she certainly disapproved of the whispers surrounding the McCready household. "Samuel McCready," she called out, her voice ringing clear even before her feet touched the ground from the saddle. "I must discuss with you the troubling circumstances that have arisen from your actions." As Sarah draped the laundry across the line behind the house, a sharp voice pierced the air, drawing her attention. Amidst the fluttering sheets, caught in the chill of the wind, she glimpsed Mrs. Caldwell's resolute visage and Samuel's astonished countenance as he stepped out from the barn. "Good morning, Henrietta," Samuel greeted with a touch of courtesy. "What draws you to this place?" "Don't play innocent with me," Mrs. Caldwell snapped. "The entire town is abuzz with chatter about the single woman residing in your home alongside those children. It is utterly outrageous." Sarah's hands paused, suspended over the clothespins. She had anticipated this moment, yet the sound of it uttered sent a wave of dread coursing through her, tightening her stomach. Within the confines of the house, Mary engaged the younger children in their morning lessons, yet Sarah's gaze caught the glimpse of Jacob's face as it materialized at the kitchen window. At the age of 17, he possessed the maturity to grasp the true significance of Mrs. Caldwell's visit for their family. "Mrs. Sarah has arrived to assist with the household," Samuel responded with a sense of calm. "Nothing more, nothing less, nothing more," Mrs. Caldwell's voice ascended. "A young woman cohabiting with a widowed man, partaking in meals and navigating the rhythms of everyday existence together. It is quite unbecoming, Samuel, and you are well aware of it." Sarah longed to vanish, to blend into the somber November sky and relieve this kind family of the burden her existence had imposed upon them. As she began to collect the partially dried clothes from the line, A thought crossed her mind. It was time to pack her meager belongings and depart before she stirred up any further trouble. Suddenly, Emma emerged from the house, her petite face alight with exhilaration. "Miss Sarah, behold my words." The 6-year-old dashed toward her, brandishing a slate adorned with unsteady letters. Mrs. Caldwell's keen gaze zeroed in on the child's unmistakable fondness for Sarah, and her demeanor became increasingly stern. "What sort of impact is this woman having on your children?" she insisted to Samuel. "A good one," came Jacob's voice from the porch. The young man emerged into the open air, his jaw clenched in resolute determination. Every day, Miss Sarah lent her assistance to Emma as she worked on her letters. She is guiding Mary in the art of crafting remedies from nature's bounty. She ascended the branches of a tree to save Emma, who found herself ensnared in its embrace. "Jacob," Samuel cautioned softly, yet his son pressed on. "And she's the first to bring warmth to this house since Mama passed away." Mrs. Caldwell's complexion flushed with a deep crimson hue. "Young man, it seems you are quite mistaken in your understanding. There exist appropriate methods for managing a household, and this certainly does not qualify as one of them." "What is appropriate about 5 children attempting to navigate their own upbringing?" Mary inquired, stepping into the doorway with Beth and Ben following closely behind her. "What is appropriate about a 17-year-old boy assuming the role of the man of the house? What is appropriate about a 13-year-old girl taking on all the cooking and cleaning responsibilities?" Sarah observed in wonder as the Macready children, her own offspring she suddenly recognized, rose to her defense, yet she also perceived the underlying issue. Mrs. Caldwell embodied the collective voice of the community, a force-wielding influence that individual families could not muster. "The crux of the matter," Mrs. Caldwell asserted, reclaiming the direction of the discussion, "is that respectable individuals do not exist in such circumstances. You must either commit to this woman in a meaningful way or allow her the freedom to seek a different path." The name Mary lingered in the frigid atmosphere, a silent provocation. Sarah's cheeks flushed with a deep crimson hue, a telltale sign of her embarrassment. She had only the faintest acquaintance with Samuel Macready, and he, in turn, had only the slightest familiarity with her. They were 2 fractured souls navigating the tumultuous waters of existence, not star-crossed lovers envisioning a shared tomorrow. "That's enough," Samuel declared with conviction. "The way I manage my household is a matter solely for me, Henrietta. Neither yours nor the town's. It transforms into a matter of communal concern when it influences the ethical fabric of the society," Mrs. Caldwell retorted. "There exist principles, Samuel, guidelines that honorable individuals adhere to." "What of the principle that compels us to assist one another?" Emma interjected unexpectedly, her delicate voice piercing the heated discussion among the adults. "Every day we receive assistance from Miss Sarah. Isn't that the expectation of those who are part of the church community?" "From the innocent lips of children," Sarah mused, observing Mrs. Caldwell grapple with her response. Yet the woman regained her strength swiftly. "My dear child, the complexities of adult life are beyond your current grasp. There exist appropriate manners for those who are not married, and cohabitation does not fall within those boundaries." As Mrs. Caldwell readied herself to depart, she issued her last ominous warning. "I shall engage in conversation with Reverend Matthews regarding this matter, as well as with the other families in the vicinity. It is essential for individuals to understand the standards being established for their children." Once she had ridden off, the Macready family remained in the yard, resembling the remnants of a tempest's fury, unsure if it had already unfolded or was merely on the cusp of starting. "Ignore her," Mary declared with intensity, directing her words at Sarah. "She is merely a bitter old woman, lacking the engagement to fill her own existence." Yet Sarah understood that the situation was far from straightforward. Mrs. Caldwell represented the esteemed citizens of Cedar Ridge, and their discontent could render life quite challenging for the Macready family. Samuel faced the prospect of losing business. The children risked being shunned at school, and the family might find themselves cut off from the very community they relied on for their survival. That evening, as Sarah busied herself with supper, accompanied by her unusually quiet children, she found herself faced with a challenging decision. Once the children were tucked away in their beds, she would engage Samuel in conversation about the prospect of leaving. Leaving would shatter her heart, yet remaining could unravel the family she had grown to cherish. Unbeknownst to her, Samuel was wrestling with the very same thoughts, while Jacob, having caught wind of Mrs. Caldwell's ominous threats, was concocting a plan that would alter the course of their lives forever. As the first snowflakes danced down from the heavens, darkness enveloped the mountains, bringing with it the chilling truth that winter was on the horizon. With the arrival of this season, the Macready family would find themselves relying on one another more than ever before. Yet, would the weight of external expectations shatter their bond before they could embrace the warmth of spring together? A colossal tree toppled mere feet from the house, narrowly avoiding the roof and ensnaring the Macready family within their log home, marking the beginning of an interminable week of winter. With her heart racing, Sarah observed Samuel and Jacob hurriedly assessing whether the fallen pine had obstructed their sole path to freedom. Beyond the frosted panes, she beheld the snow accumulating to heights surpassing a man's stature, while the wind wailed fiercely, reminiscent of a ravenous pack of wolves. "We're trapped here until the storm subsides," Samuel declared, shaking the snow from his coat. "It may take several days before we can excavate our escape." The children huddled around the fireplace, their faces betraying a worry they attempted to conceal. Sarah observed the way Jacob's shoulders tightened under the weight of responsibility, the slight tremor in Mary's hands as she meticulously counted their food supplies, and the way the twins huddled closer together, seeking solace in each other's presence. Little Emma nestled into Sarah's lap uninvited, yearning for the comfort that felt as instinctive as inhaling. "Well then," Sarah said, her voice steady and bright, "it looks like we have time for all those projects we never get to finish." The events that unfolded in the following 7 days transformed their relationship entirely. Confined within the cramped quarters, they unearthed facets of one another that the mundane world had long obscured. Sarah discovered that Jacob remained vigilant through the storms, attuned to any sounds that could pose a danger to his family. Thus she began to join him in those darkest hours, recounting tales from her childhood that brought a smile to his face for the first time in months. "Did you truly ascend to the pinnacle of the church bell tower?" Jacob inquired, his youthful earnestness giving way to a gleeful wonder. "When the preacher fell ill, I had no choice but to ring the bell." Sarah chuckled, knowing it sent a jolt through half the town as they heard its unexpected clang at an unusual hour. She realized that Mary had lost the ability to play, burdened by adult concerns that seemed far too heavy for someone her age. On the second day of their confinement, Sarah ignited a playful flower fight as they kneaded dough for bread together. White powder swirled around as Mary erupted into laughter, her meticulous composure melting away into unrestrained youthful delight. "I haven't laughed like that since Mama died," Mary confessed later, assisting Sarah in removing the flowers from the ceiling. Ben and Beth, the twins, craved adventures, even within the confines of their indoor world. Sarah transformed their mundane daily chores into exhilarating treasure hunts and spirited competitions. They hurried to determine who could pile firewood with the greatest speed, engaged in playful contests where tidying up transformed into epic struggles against unseen dirt creatures, and constructed blanket forts that became majestic castles for their fanciful realms. "Miss Sarah makes everything fun," Beth whispered to her twin brother, unaware that Sarah was listening in. "Washing dishes, too, can evoke a sense of playfulness," Ben concurred, yet it was Emma who reached the most profound depths of Sarah's heart. The 6-year-old clutched a broken doll, its once vibrant cloth body now frayed, with stuffing spilling from the widening holes that seemed to multiply with each passing day. On the third day of the tempest, Emma at last delivered the doll to Sarah, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Is it possible to mend her?" Emma inquired. "Her insides are unraveling, and I find myself at a loss for how to mend her." With great care, Sarah lifted the doll, fully aware of the deep significance it held for the young girl. With needle and thread in hand, Emma observed each stitch with unwavering focus. Emma spoke softly, recalling how Mama used to mend things as well. Yet, she became shattered, and no one could mend her again. Sarah's hands fell still. She gazed down at the child before her, a sudden clarity washing over her as she comprehended why Emma held on so fiercely to those she cherished. "Sometimes, broken things cannot be restored to their former state," Sarah remarked softly. "However, that does not imply they cannot find wholeness once more, albeit in a different form." Emma's fingers brushed against the freshly stitched seam of the doll. "In what way does it differ?" "Your doll was truly exquisite in her pristine state. Yet, she bears this scar. a testament to the moments we shared in mending her. That scar is a testament to the love she received, a mark left by someone who devoted their time to mend her spirit. The young girl pondered this with the gravity that only children can muster when faced with significant revelations. Are you shattered as well, Miss Sarah? The inquiry arrived devoid of any judgment, infused solely with curiosity. Sarah surveyed the family that she had unexpectedly joined, observing the children who had come to confide in her their deepest fears and brightest hopes. Perhaps just a touch, she conceded. Yet, I am discovering that even fractured entities can retain their utility, continue to be cherished, and hold significance. Emma inclined her head, as though this revelation was entirely logical. I'm pleased to see that you share our flaws. It signifies that you comprehend. On the fourth day, as cabin fever loomed ominously, threatening to unravel the sanity of all, Sarah took it upon herself to introduce the group to the delightful game of charades. With surprising enthusiasm, Samuel immersed himself in the act, embodying various animals and occupations with flair. The image of their stern father clucking and flapping his arms like a chicken sent all 5 children into fits of laughter, their giggles echoing through the room. That evening, Samuel confided in Sarah, I haven't seen them this happy since before their mother passed away. They sought the freedom to embrace their childhood once more, Sarah replied. At times, it seems that grown-ups overlook the fact that healing can be nurtured just as much through joy as it can through diligent effort. As the 5th day dawned, they had found their own cadence. The morning unfolded with lessons at the kitchen table, where Sarah guided Emma through her letters, while Mary assisted the twins with their arithmetic. Afternoons were a tapestry of storytelling, where each individual wove their own adventures of valiant pioneers and benevolent creatures. As dusk settled in, melodies filled the air, with Jacob's harmonica weaving through the night as they gathered to sing, their voices reverberating against the sturdy log walls. On the 7th day, the storm unleashed its fury, yet an indelible transformation had taken root within that snowbound house. They had transformed into something deeper than mere inhabitants sharing a dwelling. They had formed a family woven together by shared laughter, common struggles, and a deep trust forged through the trials they had faced side by side. Upon reaching the barn after their arduous excavation, Samuel and Jacob were relieved to discover that all the livestock remained safe and in good health. Yet the true revelation lay in what they unearthed within themselves during those confined days. Miss Sarah, Emma inquired as they observed the men clearing paths through the snow, are you going to stay with us forever? Sarah experienced a profound sensation in her heart, a conviction that astonished her with its intensity. If your father and the rest of you wish for me to, then indeed I shall oblige. We want you too, Mary said firmly, her voice resonating with the collective sentiment of her siblings. Yet, as Sarah sensed this newfound sense of belonging take hold, she couldn't help but ponder the challenges that spring might unveil, testing the delicate connections they had forged. As Sarah draped the damp sheets across the clothesline, her gaze was drawn to the mountain path, where 2 men on horseback emerged, their resolute stride suggesting the arrival of unwelcome tidings. Her hands stilled on the clothespins as she discerned the familiar slouched shoulders and the tense posture of her father, Harold Whitmore. The man beside him adjusted his posture in the saddle, and as he lifted his hat to wipe the sweat from his brow, a chill ran through Sarah, sinking her stomach to her boots. Thomas Brennan, her ex-husband, had arrived in the Colorado Territory. Sarah, her father's voice sliced through the spring morning with the sharpness of an axe-cleaving wood. It is time to put an end to this folly and return to the place that truly feels like home. The children, drawn by the ruckus, abandoned their tasks and hurried over. Jacob emerged first, his hand instinctively reaching for the rifle positioned by the door. Mary gathered the younger ones behind her, embodying the fierce protectiveness of a mother hen shielding her chicks. Emma nestled against Sarah's legs, an instinctual awareness of impending danger coursing through her, though the origin remained a mystery. Thomas Brennan dismounted and adjusted his black suit, surveying the McCready homestead with the haughty glance of a man who believed he possessed all that lay before him. His gaze rested on Sarah, a blend of ownership and revulsion that sent shivers down her spine. Sarah, he said, his voice imbued with a familiar, unwavering authority, I've come to reclaim what is rightfully mine. She is not owned by anyone. Jacob spoke, his 17-year-old voice cracking slightly, yet his courage remained steadfast. Thomas's laughter echoed, sharp and brittle, reminiscent of shattering glass. Young one, The grown-ups are engaged in conversation. A woman is bound to her husband until death, and as I am still very much alive, this woman shall accompany me. Samuel stepped out of the barn, his movements imbued with a cautious awareness, as if he could feel the weight of impending trouble in the air. His gaze swept across the scene with urgency, landing on the two unfamiliar figures, the fear etched on his children's faces and the ashen hue of Sarah's complexion. "Gentlemen," Samuel said, his voice courteous yet laced with an underlying caution, "you're on my property. Please, share the purpose of your visit." Harold Whitmore swelled with indignation, resembling an irate rooster ready to defend its territory. "I am Harold Whitmore, the father of this woman. This is Thomas Brennan, her rightful husband. We have arrived to reclaim her rightful place." "The lady isn't property to be taken," Samuel replied, his hand resting casually near his belt, where Sarah knew he concealed a knife. "She has become a member of this family now." Thomas retrieved a stack of neatly folded papers from the depths of his coat pocket. "In my possession are legal documents, including a marriage certificate, duly signed and witnessed in the state of Kansas. In the eyes of both God and the law, she remains my wife." Emma's tears flowed as she grasped the painful truth. These men sought to strip away the woman who had become her mother in every sense but one. Mary enveloped her little sister in a protective embrace as the twins edged nearer to Jacob. Harold declared that Sarah had fled from her responsibilities, abandoning her husband's home without consent. Yet Thomas stands ready to welcome her back, imperfections and all. "What deficiencies?" Samuel inquired, his tone slipping into an unsettling hush. "She's barren," Thomas stated with a starkness that suggested he was merely evaluating a malfunctioning object. "She can't give a man children, but I've come to realize that having someone to cook and clean is preferable to having no wife at all." The insult strikes Sarah with the force of a physical blow, resurrecting the shame and self-doubt she believed she had long since buried. For a fleeting instant she sensed herself retreating into the insignificant woman these men demanded she be. Yet in that moment Emma's delicate hand found its way into hers, prompting Mary to position herself beside the girl, while Jacob advanced with a fierce sense of protectiveness. Even 10-year-old Ben and Beth stand poised like miniature warriors prepared to protect their family. "You're wrong," Emma declared, her voice ringing with the clarity of a 6-year-old. "Miss Sarah remains unbroken. She tends to our needs with a devotion unmatched by anyone else." "She is no longer Miss Sarah," Mary remarked with the poise of a 13-year-old. "She has become our mother figure, and we wish for her to stay with us always." Thomas's expression clouded with fury. Children ought to be observed rather than vocalized. "Sarah, gather your belongings. Today marks our departure." Yet, a transformation had taken root within Sarah throughout her time spent with the Macready family. The woman who had once endured every harsh word and cruel judgment now sensed a strength coursing through her like the purest mountain stream. "No," she replied with a quiet finality. The word lingered in the spring air, resonating like a thunderclap. "Not at all." Harold's voice escalated into a shout. "Refusing your father and your husband is not an option." "I'm not saying no to my husband," Sarah replied, her voice gaining strength with every word. "I refuse to entertain the advances of a man who discarded me as if I were nothing more than refuse, now seeking my company only because his backup plan has failed as well." She pivoted to confront Thomas head-on, locking her gaze with his, unwavering and resolute. "You ended our marriage, don't you recall? I declared to the entire town my worthlessness, for I was unable to bear you sons. During my absence, I stumbled upon a revelation. I have the capacity to nurture and care for children who are in need of a mother. I can create a family rooted in love, rather than in biology." "That's not how marriage works," Thomas snapped, his voice laced with frustration. "You are mine until I choose to release you. She belongs to herself," Samuel asserted with conviction. "And if she decides to remain here, that is precisely what she will do." The tension was escalating, hinting at a pivotal moment that could alter the course of their lives. Yet, in Thomas's gaze, Sarah discerned an unwavering resolve. He was far from done defending what he felt was rightfully his. The spring breeze stirred, whispering through the tender leaves and wafting the fragrance of burgeoning life. Change approached the Macready homestead, inevitable and unyielding, regardless of their preparedness. With trembling hands, Sarah filled 4 cups with coffee. The kitchen seemed more confining than a prison cell, with Thomas and her father perched on one side of the wooden table, while Samuel loomed by the window like a sentinel. Outside, the children pressed their faces against the glass, seeking to comprehend why their once secure world now seemed fraught with peril. "I've come to reclaim what is rightfully mine," Thomas declared, extracting documents from the depths of his coat pocket. His voice resonated with the harshness of stones scraping against one another. "This marriage contract clearly states that Sarah remains my wife. The law stands firmly in my favor." Samuel's jaw clenched, yet he maintained a steady tone. "The law further stipulates that individuals cannot be regarded as property, akin to horses or cattle. Sarah has the freedom to select her own journey." Her father shifted in his chair, a hint of discomfort flickering across his face for the first time since his arrival. "Now, Sarah, let us not act unwisely. Thomas is extending to you a genuine proposal of marriage once more. Many men would hesitate to welcome back a woman who is unable to bear children." The term babies struck Sarah with the force of a sudden blow. For 3 long years, she had been made to feel shattered, as if her body was a disappointment, failing to meet the expectations of those around her. Yet, as she surveyed the kitchen that had borne witness to countless meals, homework sessions, and the tender care of scraped knees, a profound sensation began to awaken within her heart. "Tell me something," Sarah said, her voice gaining strength with every word. "Throughout our 3 years together, was I able to maintain the cleanliness of your home?" Thomas's brow furrowed in discontent. "Indeed, that may be true, but did I prepare your meals on a daily basis? Did I launder your garments and repair them when they ripped?" "Certainly you did. Yet that isn't the crux of the matter. Did I keep vigil by your bedside during your fever? Did my kindness towards customers contribute to the success of your business? Have I ever deceived you or betrayed your trust?" Thomas's face flushed with a deep crimson hue. "The primary role of a woman is to exist as an individual." Sarah's voice shattered the silence like a clap of thunder. The children outside leaped at the sudden noise. "I am an individual, not merely a malfunctioning vessel for reproduction." She pivoted to confront her father, perceiving him with newfound clarity for the very first time in her existence. "You dismissed me, unable to recognize any of my worth beyond my shortcomings. Yet Samuel perceives the essence of my true self." Samuel advanced, his aura enveloping the space with a subtle yet undeniable power. "For nearly a year, Sarah has taken on the role of nurturing my children. She has guided them toward improved reading skills, supported them in overcoming their fears, and transformed this house into a true home. Her significance resonates deeply within us. Yet she is unable to bear you sons," Thomas bellowed, striking the table with his fist. Little Emma stormed into the kitchen, her cheeks glistening with tears. "Please, do not take Miss Sarah from us." With tears streaming down her face, she dashed forward to embrace Sarah, her arms encircling her waist tightly. "She mends all that is shattered. She shares tales with us. Her apple pie is unparalleled, a true masterpiece that stands above all others in the world." Mary trailed closely behind Emma, her youthful visage radiating a fierce sense of guardianship. "Sarah assists me with the challenging aspects of looking after everyone. Prior to her arrival, I was left to navigate everything on my own. At times, I have the chance to embrace my inner child." Jacob stood in the doorway, his 17-year-old figure casting a shadow over the entrance. "Should you attempt to seize Sarah without her consent, prepare to confront every man in this valley. True family is understood by all, and it does not involve compelling individuals to be in places against their will." Ben and Beth, the twins, maneuvered their way past their older brother. With a sense of pride, Ben declared that Sarah imparts her knowledge of arithmetic to us. "Moreover, she assists us in capturing fireflies," Beth remarked. "Mother would often do that before she ascended to the heavens." Thomas surveyed the room, his gaze resting on the united family gathered before him. His assured demeanor started to falter. "This feels off. A husband ought to reclaim his wife. A husband ought to regard his wife as a precious gem." "It's not akin to property," Samuel responded. His voice resonated with an authority born from earning respect rather than imposing it. "You discarded Sarah once. You cannot simply return to her now that your subsequent option has failed." Sarah sensed a transformation within her chest, akin to a door creaking open after years of being sealed tight. She cast her gaze upon Thomas, the man who had rendered her feelings of worthlessness, and then turned to her father, who had bartered her as if she were a mere broken tool. At last she turned her gaze toward Samuel and his children, who had revealed to her the true essence of love. "I'm not going anywhere," she declared, her voice unwavering and resolute. "This is my family at present. These children rely on me, and I find myself relying on them as well. Thomas, feel free to hold on to your papers. I opt to remain in places where I am cherished for my true self, rather than for the potential I may offer to others." The stillness that ensued resembled the instant just before the first light of dawn emerges. Thomas's visage shifted through a myriad of emotions before finally resting on a look of furious resignation. Her father appeared bewildered, as though he were encountering his daughter as a genuine individual for the very first time. "This isn't over," Thomas muttered, though his voice betrayed a lack of conviction. Samuel positioned himself next to Sarah. His presence stood firm, unyielding like the very stone of the mountains. "Indeed it is. Should you return to trouble my family, you will face me, along with every honorable man in the Colorado Territory." As Thomas and her father readied themselves to depart, Sarah sensed the gentle touch of Emma's tiny hand intertwining with hers. The young girl gazed upward, her eyes sparkling with unwavering trust. "Will you be staying with us forever, Miss Sarah?" "Forever and always, dear girl," Sarah vowed, with sincerity in every syllable. Through the window, she observed her past slipping away down the mountain trail, taking with it all the years of feeling shattered and insignificant. What lingered was a kitchen brimming with souls who cherished her just as she was. The bells of Cedar Ridge Community Church echoed through the valley on Sunday morning, summoning individuals to confront the most challenging decision many had ever encountered. The news traveled through the quaint town with the swiftness of a raging inferno. The clash at the McCready place, Sarah's decision to remain, and Thomas Brennan's furious exit. At this moment, each individual faced the profound task of reflecting on their true convictions regarding family, love, and the possibility of second chances. Sarah perched in the wagon next to Samuel, her heart thundering against her ribs. Since her arrival in Colorado, she had avoided church, burdened by the weight of her circumstances and reluctant to confront the scrutiny of respectable people. Yet today carried an unmistakable air of distinction. Today, she resolved to rise and make her voice heard, no matter the consequences. "You don't have to do this," Samuel said softly as they neared the church. "We might just glide by and make our way to the lake for a delightful picnic." Emma bounced on the wagon seat between them, eager to showcase that Miss Sarah has truly become a cherished member of our family. "She's right, Papa," Mary chimed in from the rear of the wagon. "We must not conceal our true selves simply because there are those who may disapprove." The church steps hummed with lively chatter, abruptly silenced as the McCready wagon rolled to a halt. As Samuel guided her down, Sarah sensed the weight of countless gazes upon her, his hands firm and reassuring in her grasp. The children encircled her, their unwavering loyalty evident to all who were there. Within the church, murmurs trailed behind them along the center aisle, akin to bees flitting about a pot of honey. The McCready family occupied an entire pew, with Sarah nestled between Mary and Emma. She sensed the heavy burden of scrutiny from certain corners, while others offered their unwavering support, creating an atmosphere where the congregation appeared divided in two. Reverend Matthew ascended to his pulpit, his gentle gaze sweeping over the congregation gathered before him. He was an astute individual, keenly aware that the sermon he delivered today would influence the community's perception of the McCready family for years ahead. "Today, I wish to speak of Ruth," he began, his voice resonating clearly throughout the wooden structure. Ruth found herself at a crossroads, faced with the dilemma of selecting the secure route or the one that resonated with her moral compass. She had the option to return to her birth family, a place steeped in familiarity and predictability. Instead, she decided to remain with Naomi, her mother-in-law, declaring, "Where you go, I will go. Your people shall become my people." As the Reverend continued, Sarah felt the sting of tears welling in her eyes. Ruth crafted her family through intention, not merely through lineage. She emerged as an ancestor of King David and Jesus, illustrating that divine purpose can manifest through any lineage founded on love and dedication. Following the service, Sarah lingered outside the church alongside Samuel and the children, uncertain of the welcome that awaited them. Several individuals rushed by, offering brief nods, their discomfort with the circumstances evident. Conversations flowed effortlessly as people paused to discuss the weather and the state of the crops, adhering to the familiar rhythm of their interactions. Then, Margaret Patterson made her entrance. As the wife of the mill owner, she stood as Cedar Ridge's nearest embodiment of social leadership. Her subsequent actions would shape the community's response in profound ways. "Miss Sarah," Mrs. Patterson said with a formal tone, then unexpectedly surprised everyone by reaching for Sarah's hands. "I have observed your family throughout the winter and spring seasons. It is evident how the Macready children have flourished in your nurturing presence." A cluster of women assembled behind her: the school teacher, the doctor's wife, the widow who managed the general store, and a handful of farm wives. Their choice was a collective one, and the strength of their solidarity would resonate more profoundly than any solitary voice. "We've had discussions among ourselves," Mrs. Patterson continued, "and we want you to know that you are warmly welcomed in our community. We have witnessed the true essence of mothering, and it transcends the act of giving birth. It revolves entirely around the act of bestowing love." Mrs. Henderson, the esteemed educator, advanced with purpose. "Mary's reading has flourished remarkably since you began assisting her at home, and Jacob has grasped the essence of responsibility in a single year, surpassing what some boys might learn in 5. Dr. Morrison's wife remarked that Emma speaks of you incessantly. Her face radiates joy at the mere mention of Miss Sarah. Such a thing cannot be feigned." The widow of the blacksmith gave a solemn nod. "Your presence at the store is a testament to your patience, as you gracefully attend to all 5 children, ensuring that each one feels uniquely cherished. Such a talent is rare among women." Overwhelming gratitude surged through Sarah, enveloping her completely. Their eyes were keen, assessing, weighing, and concluding. Their decision was one of acceptance, declared openly for all the townsfolk to listen. The young Dr. Morrison made his way toward the gathering. "Mr. Macready, if I may, I must say that your family has truly embodied health and happiness over the past year. The current arrangement appears to be functioning effectively for all parties concerned." Samuel's smile radiated warmth and authenticity. "I appreciate your help, Doctor. We have been fortunate to discover one another." Across the churchyard, Sarah observed a small assembly of men engaged in hushed, earnest conversation. Among them stood Thomas Brennan and her father, a silent testament to the bonds that tie us together. Their expressions were shadowed by fury at the unmistakable backing the community had shown for the Macready family. Thomas locked eyes with her, making a gesture that could have been interpreted as menacing. Yet, it appeared trivial and feeble when juxtaposed with the unwavering circle of support that enveloped her. Emma pulled at Sarah's dress. "Miss Sarah, does this imply that we have won everyone's favor now?" Sarah lowered herself to the ground, bringing her gaze level with that of the little girl. "The individuals who truly count possess kind hearts, dear girl, while those who hold no significance may think whatever they wish." As the throng started to break apart, families making their way home for Sunday supper, Sarah sensed a buoyancy in her heart that had eluded her for years. The voices of the community resonated, opting for love in place of law and compassion instead of convention. "Are you prepared to head back home?" Samuel extended his arm, a gesture of invitation. "Indeed," Sarah responded, the word imbued with a depth of significance surpassing any promise she had ever uttered. "I find myself yearning to return home." The journey back to the homestead in the wagon was alive with the sound of chatter and laughter, the children bubbling with excitement from the morning's adventures. Sarah observed the well-known scenery unfold before her, the mountains that had embraced her metamorphosis, the valley that had turned into her refuge, the path that guided her to the sole true home she had ever experienced. The church bells tolled in the distance, their resonant chimes weaving a tapestry of acceptance that spread throughout the valley. A scream sliced through the morning stillness, sharp and sudden, causing every bird in the valley to take flight toward the distant mountains. Sarah let the basket of eggs slip from her grasp as she sprinted toward the source of the sound, her heart racing with a thunderous rhythm in her chest. Emma lay sprawled at the foot of the ladder, which ascended to the hayloft. Her petite form contorted in a manner that sent a chill through Sarah's stomach. The child's visage was as pale as untouched snow, while a dark stain of blood gradually expanded beneath her golden locks. "Fetch your father," Sarah called out to Jacob, who remained motionless in the barn doorway, a figure carved from trepidation. At this very moment, Sarah knelt beside Emma, her hands trembling as she leaned in to check for signs of breath. The small child's chest rose and fell rhythmically, yet her eyes remained shut. Crimson droplets oozed from a gash on her forehead, while her left arm contorted at an unnatural angle, signaling the unmistakable reality of fractured bones. Samuel stormed into the barn, his work boots skidding across the hay-strewn floor. Following closely behind was Mary, accompanied by the twins and Jacob, their expressions etched with a profound fear that arises when the very fabric of their existence seems to be unraveling. "How bad?" Samuel asked, his voice unwavering, despite the tremor in his hands as they brushed against Emma's face. "She's breathing, but her arm is broken," Sarah said, tearing strips from her apron to bind Emma's head wound. "Dr. Harrison is essential to our needs. Swift." "Doc is in Denver for the week," Samuel remarked, and Sarah noticed a flicker of something shatter behind his eyes. "I shall not return until the following Tuesday." The closest town with another physician lay 3 days' journey through perilous mountain passes, rendered treacherous by the grip of winter. Emma was filled with impatience, unable to endure the wait. Sarah gazed upon the little girl's wan visage and resolved to take a step that filled her with a fear unlike any she had ever known. "I can set the bone," she murmured softly. "When I was the same age as Mary, my mother imparted her wisdom to me. Our distance from town makes waiting for doctors an impractical endeavor." Samuel fixed his gaze upon her. "Sarah, if you falter, if we remain idle, she may never regain the use of that arm," he warned, his eyes locking onto hers. "Or worse." Mary advanced, her youthful visage imbued with gravity. "I shall offer my assistance. Guide me on my next steps." The following hour stretched out, resembling the longest day Sarah had ever experienced. She instructed Ben to heat water and collect fresh cloth. Beth grasped Emma's legs firmly, ensuring they remained motionless, while Mary provided steady support to her shoulders. Jacob set out to summon Mrs. Patterson, a woman seasoned in the art of aiding both in the arrival of new life and the mending of shattered limbs. With a deftness that surprised her, Sarah's hands glided along Emma's arm, searching for the fracture she had long since buried in her memory. The bone had fractured sharply, a clean break occurring midway between the elbow and wrist, yet it remained beneath the surface, not piercing the skin. The news was indeed uplifting. "Hold her tight," Sarah cautioned Mary and Beth. She carefully maneuvered the fractured ends of the bone back into alignment. Emma's piercing scream sent a wave of emotion through the crowd, yet the arm appeared to be perfectly aligned once more. With care, Sarah fashioned splints from barn wood and strips of cloth, recalling the lessons her mother had imparted long ago on their Kansas farm. As Sarah completed the bandaging, Mrs. Patterson entered, cast her gaze upon the work, and nodded in approval. "It was a tidy task," she remarked. "The arm is likely to mend well, provided we ensure it remains undisturbed." As the evening light filtered through the curtains, Emma stirred from her slumber, her parched throat prompting a request for water. She glanced around, puzzled by the anxious expressions that surrounded her. She attempted to sit up, a sharp wince escaping her lips as her arm refused to cooperate. "What has transpired within me?" she inquired, her tone delicate and filled with uncertainty. Sarah perched on the edge of the bed, gently brushing Emma's hair aside to reveal the bandage on her forehead. "You tumbled from the hayloft, dear one, yet all will be well. Did you mend me as you mended my doll?" Sarah's throat constricted, a tightness wrapping around her voice. "Indeed, my dear, exactly as your doll." Emma examined Sarah's face, her expression mirroring the intense concentration that children often display when grappling with something significant. "Mother, is that you, Sarah? Indeed? It brings me joy to see that you possess the skill to mend what is broken." That evening, once Emma had drifted into slumber, clutching Sarah's hand, Samuel discovered Sarah on the front porch, gazing up at the stars. Her entire form trembled as if caught in a fierce gale, the fear she had concealed throughout the day finally revealing itself. "She might have perished," Sarah murmured. "What if I had inadvertently caused more harm to her arm? What happens if the bone fails to heal then? What if—" Samuel positioned himself beside her, just within reach, allowing her to sense the warmth radiating from his body. Yet she remained unharmed, and her arm would mend in time. "You rescued her, Sarah. Your presence was precisely what this family required at the moment of our greatest need." Sarah rested her head against his shoulder, drawing comfort from the unwavering strength that had steadied this family through countless tempests. "Fear gripped me tightly. Fear gripped me like never before, a sensation unlike anything I had ever experienced." "That's what makes you brave," Samuel murmured gently, feeling fear yet still taking the necessary steps forward. The following morning, Emma perched at the kitchen table, her arm cradled in a sling, directing Mary with authority on the art of pancake making. The accident reverberated through the lives of all, Yet it unveiled a profound truth about the woman who had come to embody the very essence of their home. Sarah Whitmore had come to their doorstep as a figure discarded by the world. Yet when adversity loomed, she revealed herself to be precisely the ally one would desire in times of turmoil. She was more than a mere provider of sustenance and a fixer of garments. She possessed the ability to think swiftly, act with courage, and stand up for her family when the moment called for it. As Sarah observed Emma's laughter in response to Ben's playful antics at the breakfast table, a subtle transformation stirred within her as well. For the first time since departing from her father's home, she sensed that she was more than merely a valuable asset in another's existence. She embodied the essence of a guardian, a nurturer, a figure whose mere existence transformed the balance between security and peril for those she held dear. The woman who once thought of herself as shattered had just demonstrated her ability to mend what was dearest to her newfound family, and that realization seeped into her very being like strengths she had never realized she held. Half a year had passed, and on a morning when spring adorned the Colorado mountains in vibrant hues of renewal, Sarah found herself in her garden, witnessing an unexpected sight. Emma dashed through the vegetable rows, her arms moving gracefully as she pursued butterflies, her laughter ringing out like a melody carried by the mountain breeze. The arm had mended, straight and robust, just as Mrs. Patterson had foreseen. Yet another transformation had taken place as well. There was an essence within Sarah that she was just starting to grasp. "Mama Sarah," Emma exclaimed, presenting a bouquet of wildflowers. "Look what I gathered for you." The sound of Mama still sent warm shivers through Sarah's heart each time it graced her ears, not merely due to the fact that she had brought this child into the world, but rather because she had made the conscious decision to love her wholly, and in turn, Emma had chosen to reciprocate that love in equal measure. Samuel emerged at the garden gate, a smile gracing his face that hinted at delightful tidings. In his grasp, he clutched a letter of official stature, adorned with elegant script upon its exterior. "What is that?" Sarah inquired, brushing the soil from her hands onto her apron. "A letter from the territorial government," Samuel exclaimed, his voice brimming with a barely contained excitement. Regarding our land claims, Sarah felt a flutter in her stomach. For months, they had been in anticipation, longing to learn the fate of their homestead application. Without formal claim to the land, all they had constructed could vanish as swiftly as the morning frost. With meticulous care, Samuel unfolded the letter, his gaze tracing the lines of text as Sarah waited, breath held in anticipation. The other children converged, their instincts alerting them to the significance of the moment unfolding before them. "What is it?" Mary inquired, her tone laced with concern. Samuel lifted his gaze, a radiant smile spreading across his face, one that Sarah had never witnessed before. "We have it in hand, every single one of the 160 acres. The territory is now rightfully ours." The jubilation that blossomed in the garden was unlike anything Sarah had ever encountered. The children erupted in joyous whoops and lively dances. Emma tossed her flowers into the air, a vibrant cascade reminiscent of confetti, while Samuel lifted Sarah effortlessly, twirling her around until they both felt a delightful dizziness from their shared happiness. Yet, as the thrill began to fade, Sarah understood that this moment signified far more than mere ownership of land. It signified an everlasting sense of belonging. It signified that no one could ever compel her to abandon this sanctuary, where she had unearthed her true value. That evening, as the family convened for supper around their kitchen table, Samuel rose in a manner that signaled he had something significant to share. "Contemplating the significance of this land ownership for our family has occupied my thoughts." He turned his gaze from one child to the next, finally resting it on Sarah. "This signifies that we are able to devise plans for what lies ahead, genuine intentions." He glanced at Jacob, who had blossomed into a taller and more robust figure during the winter months. "Jacob, I urge you to reflect on your aspirations and the path you wish to carve for yourself in this world. Choose to remain and toil the earth alongside me, or venture to Denver for further education. Both options are perfectly acceptable to me." Jacob's expression brightened. "Is that so, Pa? Is it possible for me to venture into the city? If that is your desire, we shall discover a means to bring it to fruition." Samuel turned his gaze toward Mary next. "Mary, you've been overseeing this household with the maturity of an adult, yet you also deserve the opportunity to embrace your youth. Consider exploring music or painting, or any other passion that captivates you. Mary's cheeks flushed with color, yet a smile danced on her lips. I would appreciate that, Papa. Ben and Beth, you both possess the intelligence to become anything your hearts desire as you journey into adulthood. We will ensure you receive the education necessary to forge your own paths. Then Samuel's gaze met Sarah's from across the table. And Sarah, my beloved wife, I wish for you to understand that you have bestowed upon us a gift we never anticipated receiving once more. What is that? Sarah inquired gently. Anticipation for what lies ahead, faith in the promise of a brighter tomorrow. You revealed that shattered pieces can transform into something exquisite, that bonds can be forged from affection rather than mere lineage, and that true value arises from what you offer, not from what you create. Emma gently pulled at Sarah's sleeve. Mama Sarah, will we be here for all eternity? Sarah surveyed the table, her gaze lingering on the faces that had grown more dear to her than she had ever thought possible. These children, who referred to her as Mama, did so not out of biological ties, but because she had willingly embraced them into her world. This man, who recognized her worth when the rest of the world perceived nothing but defeat. Indeed, dear one, Sarah declared, her voice imbued with unwavering conviction. We shall reside here for all eternity. As the night deepened and the children drifted into slumber, Sarah and Samuel found themselves on their front porch, gazing at the stars as they began to punctuate the darkening sky. The mountains loomed around them, steadfast and protective, while the gentle murmur of the creek flowing by their land whispered a soothing lullaby. Have you ever pondered what might have unfolded if your father had not taken you to that trading post? Samuel inquired. Sarah pondered the question. I once held a different belief, but now I find solace in the notion that everything unfolded precisely as it was meant to. Every ounce of pain, every moment of rejection, every instance of feeling worthless has culminated in this moment, bringing me to this family, to this life. Do you believe there will come a time when you might wish to reach out to your father, inform him of the outcome? Sarah gently shook her head, a subtle gesture that spoke volumes. He determined my value. I no longer seek his validation to recognize my own value. Samuel extended his hand, his rough fingers weaving through hers. And what do you hold within, Sarah McCready? Sarah smiled, reflecting on Emma's healed arm, Jacob's aspirations for college, Mary's music lessons, the twins' promising futures, the garden thriving under her nurturing, the home that functioned seamlessly due to her diligence, and the man beside her who recognized her strength rather than her limitations. I am valued by what I decide to offer, she declared, and I choose to offer all that I possess to this family, this land, this life we have created together. The Colorado wind, which once bore the dust of her abandonment, now wafted the fragrance of her garden, the joyous laughter of her children, and the hopeful promise of countless tomorrows, each brimming with a love that has the power to transform all it encounters. Sarah Whitmore McCready had come to understand the most profound truth of all, that one's worth is not bestowed by others, nor can it be stripped away. Every day you weave a tapestry of existence through the choices you embrace, the love you extend, and the bravery you summon when life challenges you to transcend your own limits. As shooting stars began to streak across the mountain sky, Sarah squeezed Samuel's hand, a smile gracing her lips, as she reflected on the beautiful life that had blossomed from the remnants of her shattered dreams.